Hello, I'm here because I would like to talk about women of ideas and what men have done to them. I've been meaning to do this for quite a long time now, but as Virginia Woolf would say, women need a room of their own. I came across this nearly 800-page long book in Barter Books, which is a second-hand bookshop in Britain. When I first saw it, I gently took it out of the shelf and I stared at both its size, it's quite a big book, and its title, and it kind of dawned on me, was I the only one who didn't even know so many intellectual women had existed in the past? D.Spender gives voice to writers, artists, intellectuals. You have to imagine like a flow in history. Women would decide to speak their mind, but then there would be silence, and then they would try again, and then there would be silence again. After reading the book, you're left with the feeling that 300 years have not been quite enough to dismantle prejudice. There's a metaphor that I like a lot. Every so often, we've had to reinvent the wheel. The book is actually older than me, but surprisingly and quite sadly, I would say, it is not outdated at all. I'm not going to talk about each and every author. I'm going to go through the points that I found the most interesting. We make sense of the world through the values we inherit. But if it is men taking roles of power, writing the laws, deciding what is good and what is not good, it would be men's values to be taken into consideration. Throughout history, women have always been seen as objects either to be married or to be used for pleasure. There weren't many other options for women other than getting married. Unfortunately, it is still the case in some countries. Throughout history, some kind of importance other than that of being a good wife or being a good mother has been denied. Our place in society has often been in relationship to that of a man. I'll just try to make myself clear because we do make the same mistake. So imagine this, you are all sitting at the table, you turn on the TV and there's a woman reading the news, or reading the weather forecast, singing, dancing. No matter what she's doing, it's quite likely that one of your guests would say something about her. They may comment on the way she's dressed, how much makeup she's got, how little makeup she's got, if she's fit, if she's not fit, the way she walks, the way she talks, and so on and so forth. If she's good looking, then one of your guests may say that she's there because she had an intercourse with the right person. If she's not good looking, then it's likely that one of your guests would mention her famous husband, famous father, a man who is responsible for her being there. She's denied responsibility for being there. And of course, I'm not saying that your guests are doing this out of nastiness. They just do it because, as I said before, we make sense of the world through the values we inherit, and it is completely normal in my country to make these types of comments. Sellability means availability. Sexually available to a man with resources temporarily or permanently. Either case, women were denied any role other than that of being at a man's disposal. Past, it was not acceptable for a woman to ask for a divorce just out of her husband's adultery. This means that men could easily look for pleasure elsewhere and then go back home, and that would be kind of acceptable because women had to look after the house and after the children. Sexual harassment cannot be seen as a very bad thing after all, because men do it out of a supposedly natural need. But as we all know now, it is a socially constructed need that can be acceptable in some society and not as acceptable in other societies. For a long time, women were denied education. They were denied the right to study. In the Renaissance, Latin and Greek were only accessible to men. And of course, if you don't have access to a code, you are left out. If a woman decided to study according to social standards, she would lack on something else. Maybe the looks, maybe she wouldn't fully share the values of that society and therefore be considered a bit repellent. Denying women access to education means granting men authority over them. You may think that now this aspect is okay. It is the case in this part of the world, but it's not the case everywhere. In my country, some kind of prejudice still exists, especially in some lower classes. A woman who had studied didn't really match the social standards. She may have been a witch, or she may have been repellent, or maybe she wasn't really with it. If you think about the lives of intellectual women, the main focus has often been on trying to decode secret aspects of these women's lives. The main focus has been on trying to delve into intellectual women's lives, trying to figure out why they were writing rather than trying to understand what they were writing. So if you agreed to certain standards, more often than not, you could not be a writer or an artist. You would somehow lack on something. This is because as women, we all have to live with what Florence Nightingale called a phantom and Virginia Woolf called the angel in the house, an ideal of femininity and also of motherhood. It's an ideal of sacrifice for the sake of the family, always keeping a smile on your face, always keeping a cheerful disposition. We are kind of grown up with this angel in the house kind of concept, and we somehow feel wrong because we don't completely adhere, we don't completely match this ideal of femininity. The problem is that also chivalry has never existed, but I don't feel my male friends experiencing the same type of guilt some of us still feel today for not being perfect. I loved everything about the book. It is a life changer, but I didn't quite enjoy the harsh tone all the time. Of course, D.Spender uses that tone because she wants to convey as much as possible. She's not seeking approval or appreciation. She just wants to dismantle prejudice and achieve a substantial change. In my opinion, we cannot shout if we want to be heard. And I do have a chip on my shoulder because I have internalized an ideological bondage. And I have a chip on my shoulder also because I am that part of the guests that after a meal has to stand up and help doing the washing up. At least that's how it works here. All in all, I think that freedom and equality need to be taught to our children from a young age, both boys and girls. I don't think that women's studies should be still something written by women for women, a random exam taken at uni, a random book found in a second-hand bookshop, unless we prefer reinventing the wheel every single time. Thank you for watching.